Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts off by introducing us to a character named Fernand Pellenberg. He is the young lord of the ducal house of Pellenberg, the most prosperous family in the Armenian Empire. He is also a student in the magic department of the Imperial Academy, with a solid family background, a solid education, and overflowing wealth. His biggest downside was that he is crazy obsessed with money. It's so much so that people called him the money fiend. He was once again holding a morning meeting and receiving reports from the merchant guild run by his family, and constantly berating everybody who failed to meet his expectations. It was just a day like any other, but as they say, misfortune always strikes suddenly. As he's walking down somewhere, talking to his assistant, he notices something as he looks up, because it was a sunny day without a single drop of rain. He noticed something strange in the sky, as it was none other than lightning hurtling down towards him, striking him. The shock was so great it took his breath away, and his mind grew hazy. Seeing that moment of weakness, a strange soul burrowed in. We see them wondering what's going on, but Fernand as well asked who the hell they are. They laugh, asking if they are possessing someone. Fernand asked what they mean by possession, and it started spouting incomprehensible words and rummaging through his mind. His mind instinctively realized it was trying to steal his body. He squeezed out what little mana he had left and attacked the invader. The invader screamed, while being attacked, but it worked as it scattered around his entire body, and he was able to absorb some of it. In that single moment, unfamiliar memories slammed into his head, causing a splitting pain throughout his entire skull. He then jolts awake, and his assistant asks if he's okay. Fernand saw a strange text right in front of his own eyes. It was a prophecy about the ominous end of this world. About how these 72 demon kings of Solomon will rise, the world is going to fall into chaos, and that Fernand will conspire with the demon and lose all of his money. It was a hint of a future more terrible than death. He starts asking what kind of bullshit this is, as there's no way he'd ever live like a beggar. Since that day, he's tried to find out what that soul was, and why it tried possessing him, and how it had all these strange memories, but he ended up finding nothing. One thing he was certain about though, was that there is a high chance that the prophecy is coming true. Rather, it's not just a chance, but it's been coming true so far. Thanks to that, he was able to get ahead of the issues and make a pretty hefty profit, but he wasn't entirely happy about it. The fact the prophecy is coming true means that his ruin is also drawing near, so he needs to verify more thoroughly whether it's entirely correct. His assistant asks how class was, and Fernand says like usual. Then the assistant asks if he wants some coffee, and Fernand says okay, as he reaches for the newspaper. He looks for the news about the academy, and the assistant can tell he's acting strange, wondering if he is feeling unwell these days. Fernand says no, and the assistant says that it seems like he has a lot on his mind. Fernand asks for how long it's been like that to him, and the assistant says about half a year ago. He'd suddenly space out for a while, and the person who used to prioritize investigation and verification would suddenly make strange choices, as if possessed, and that these are the after effects of being struck by lightning. Fernand says that those strange choices turned out to be the right ones in the end. He sees somebody of the Armenian family named Ain't, who has applied to the school. Fernand says that this confirms it, and starts running off. When the assistant goes to ask him a question, Fernand says he'll be back after a quick trip to the south. The assistant says that he just made him coffee, though, but Fernand doesn't care. We learn that the Imperial Academy is a vast domain built on Bardian, an island located in the Empire's inland sea. The expansive grounds were an artificial environment created by magic, and in the southern part, a wide wetland stretched out. Fernand says it's the day he can finally verify for sure if the prophecy is real. Among the contents mentioned in the prophecy, there are 3 things in his mind that stand out the most, and they're all about him falling into ruin and being a beggar. This pisses him off. He says that's not actually all 3, then lists them properly. First, the one just mentioned, the one about him being a beggar. Second is where the 72 demons summoned by Solomon 1,000 years ago rise again. And third, the future of Ain't, who will save the world by fighting against those demons. Fernand says that Ain't is a figure that no citizen of the Empire could possibly not know, because he is a descendant of the Empire's founding emperor, Kalinos Armen. The House of Armen, which founded the entire empire, along with the 5 surrounding kingdoms, is now, 1,000 years later, A fallen house that has lost all of its authority as the imperial family, with only its honor remaining. The prophecy book states that its descendant of the old imperial family, Ain't, is the protagonist. After finishing the entrance exam, he did not return right away, but headed for the southern wetlands. The reason he entered the academy was to chase the trail of a map left to his family by the first emperor. From the moment he enrolled in the academy, a series of events occurred around him, and written in detail just like he was reading a novel. Therefore, seeing for himself if he is really acting according to the prophecy is the surest way to verify its authenticity. Besides that, he is also directly related to Fernand's awful future, as he gives him an excommunication document. What's even more crazy is that he has no idea why he came to hate him, leading to his downfall. He can't read the entire contents of the prophecy book. There are parts that are unreadable here and there, so for some events, he can only grasp the general flow, and he couldn't figure out the exact cause and effect. The superficial reason was that he joined hands with the demon, but that does not make sense. Fernand gets off his horse, saying that it should be around here somewhere, as Ain't is searching for a hidden dungeon in these wetlands. Inside of the dungeon is a provision from the first emperor of the Armian family. A sword imbued with the spirit of the empire's first royal knight, Gardener Alvain Farson, lies dormant. Fernand says that if the prophecy is accurate, he is the most suitable person to save the world from demons, and he sure is going to be a great hero. If only he wasn't talented enough to fight demons, he would have found him and crushed him long ago, because this bastard plans to make him a beggar. He then smells blood in the air, and mentions how the prophecy said that he was injured by a croaker's attack on the way to the dungeon. Even if he was born with the destiny of a hero, his talent hasn't blossomed yet. A croaker is an apex predator of the swamp, and it must have been a tough opponent. Fernand sees the blood leading to a tree, saying that might be the cave entrance. So far, it's just as the prophecy has said. He decides to check if Ain't is inside, but then he spots him off to his side, wondering why he hasn't entered the dungeon yet, and if he came too early. Fernand says that in times like this, he needs to act confident, saying that this is an area restricted for freshmen. Ain't asks if he knows him, and Fernand says that there's nobody in the empire who doesn't know him. Ain't says that he's sorry, but he doesn't recognize him, asking for his name. Fernand tells him, and Ain't surprised as he recognizes the name. Fernand says that he needs to remind him that he's his senior. Ain't says yes, and Fernand asks if he ran into a lizard man, because he's injured. Ain't tells him that he actually encountered a croaker. Fernand says that's pretty unlucky, since they're only spotted once or twice a year, and throws him an elixir. He says that it's a potion, saying that it's of the highest grade, and it'll be much better than drinking 10 bottles of low-grade ones. Ain't calls him young lord, but Fernand corrects him, saying just to call him by his name. So Ain't does that, and Fernand says he doesn't need money. Even if his family has fallen, he's of imperial blood, and he doubts he'll turn out to be a worthless person, and that they can just call it an investment. Ain't says that Fernand doesn't seem like someone who's crazy about money like the rumors say, and he might be a surprisingly good person. He thanks him, but Fernand says that he can't believe how much he's wasting, and if only it wasn't for the damn prophecy. He then starts lecturing him about how lucky he is, and tells him to be careful on his way back. Ain't bows, thanking him for his kindness, and Fernand says that he didn't actually go back, but instead hid nearby, erasing his presence. Ain't drank the potion and entered the dungeon, and a little while later, Fernand followed him in. He says that it's actually real, and seeing as there's no reaction even when he enters it, it seems that it's already been cleared. He says that there are so many magic lamps, but he can barely feel any trace of mana. He then picks one up, saying that it's actually faintly absorbing the surrounding mana, and that these are semi-permanent magic lamps, wondering why he left something so valuable behind. Fernand says that he was so clueless earlier, which is a different image from the one written in the prophecy, and he starts to wonder if he can really entrust the future of the world to this kid. In the prophecy, he entered the dungeon while injured, and on top of that, the shock from falling right at the dungeon entrance, his whole body was a wreck. His wounds were severe, and he ended up drinking all of his potions, but they were so poor quality that he wasn't fully healed, but he pushed forward through all of the pain, and he felt an instant connection, because on an altar at the end was a sword. While it looked very plain, at the same time, he could not take his eyes off of it. His heart and soul root was drawn to it. Ain't grabbed the sword, and in that moment, a brilliant radiance illuminated the entire darkness of the cavern. When he closed and opened his eyes, he was no longer in the dungeon, but standing in a secluded alley of the Imperial Academy. Fernand says it's faint, but there's still a trace of magic left. The mark in the middle of the altar where the sword was embedded is still there, but Ain't is no longer here, and the situation is just telling him the prophecy was real, which means that all of these things, such as his excommunication, means that it's all real. Fernand scratches his head, saying that he can't believe he's going to become a beggar, and this sounds like straight shit. And while Ain't is the main protagonist of the prophecy, and also the hero who protects the world from demons, that's not all he is, as he is the one who will bring about Fernand's downfall. But right now, his stock is rising. The one described in the prophecy had an entirely different personality from the Ain't he knows. He's the type who values honor more than material things, so if he approaches him carelessly, it might backfire. He wonders how to deal with this. He says it's a difficult problem, and the assistant asks what he means. We finally learn that his assistant is named Hyde. Fernand says that there's a top stock that will definitely grow well, and if he invests in it, asking Hyde what he would do. He says he'd do it without hesitating. Fernand then asks, what if the stock has a shitty personality that isn't aligned with yours? Hyde asks why that's even a concern. The Duke always said that even personalities can be aligned with money. Fernand realizes he's right. It's only complicated due to the demons and the destruction, but the core principle is the same: invest, take a risk, and earn massive amounts of money. A difference in personality is a very minor issue in the face of massive wealth. But he needs more information on Ain't. He grabs his coat, saying that he needs to go meet him right now. Hyde asks who, since they have a guest coming later, but Fernand leaves. Hyde says that he's again just reading stuff about the prophecy once more. I guess he knows. We learn that at the academy, dormitories are assigned according to entrance exam rankings. Rank 1 to 10 is the Levatus dorm for the top elite. 11 to 30 is the Blessed dorm for outstanding students. And the dorm for the scraps outside the top 30 is called the Debez dorm. We see Gardner, at least his ego that now resides in the sword. He's yelling at Ain't, asking how a descendant of the Armian is staying in the Debez dorm rather than one of the better ones when it's their family's academy. This is unbelievable. If they let Emperor know, he'd rise from his grave and twist all these demons and axe. Ain't asks why he's talking about demons all of a sudden, and Gardner says that there's no way something like this could happen without a demon interfering. Ain't tells him that it can't be helped. He's here because he's weak. Gardner says that there's no way a descendant of the Armians is this weak. Ain't says the first emperor is to blame. Gardner asks what he's talking about. Ain't explains that the first emperor was the one who abolished the imperial succession system and changed it to electing the emperor from among the 7 electorates. Furthermore, he donated most of their land and assets to the empire. And as the throne was taken by the other elector families for over 100 years, the donated territory is no longer theirs, and their family's fortunes gradually declined, even losing some of the secret sword techniques passed through generations. Even though he's an elector, given these circumstances, he couldn't even receive proper sword training. Gardner says that he still has talent, and he will support him with all the resources he can to restore their family to its former glory. And perhaps the late emperor also predicted this and placed him here for that purpose. There's a knock at the door. We hear Fernand ask if he's there. Gardner wonders who it could be. Ain't says he has no idea, asking who it is. Fernand tells him, and Ain't opens the door, asking him what brings him here. Fernand asks if he's busy, and he says no, he doesn't have anything urgent to do right now. Fernand says great, asking if he can spare a moment, but it's way too loud here, as everybody's moving in and out, and there's a lot of yapping. He tells him that they should go somewhere quieter. Ain't tells him to just wait 10 minutes and he'll come right out. Fernand asks if he's really making him wait for 10 whole minutes and starts yapping at him, saying that he has no discipline. Ain't corrects himself, saying that he'll get out in 5. Fernand tells him he'll be waiting outside and closes the door. Ain't says he's not going to be able to do that. Gardner asks who the hell that was. Ain't tells him that he's the eldest son of the Pellenberg family. Gardner says they're nothing but a bunch of rich kids, asking what makes them so great when all they have is money and why they are bossing around a royal heir. Ain't, though, is just trying to figure out why he wants to see him, saying surely he didn't come to get the potion money since it's an investment. A little later, while they're having a meeting, Fernand notices that he brought his sword, asking about it. Ain't tells him he feels safe carrying it, but he doesn't have any ill intentions. Fernand says he understands most knights can't bear to stay away from their swords, but he understands that it must be the one infused with the gardener's ego. Ain't asks why he wants to meet him, and Fernand says it's nothing much. He was just thinking of dinner and tells him to order whatever he wants. Ain't says he's fine since this place looks expensive. Then Fernand tells him to stop refusing his senior when they're offering drinks. Ain't says he got it, and he'll look at the menu. As he starts scouring through it, Fernand looks at him, saying that he seems naive and gentle, but he wonders how a kid like this changes so much in the future. He asks him what he's going to do after he graduates. Ain't looks surprised, and Fernand says that students usually enroll in the academy to expand their influence, but the army and always use the excuse of developing their family strength and never participated in socializing, so it's surprising to discover someone from that family has enrolled now. Ain't tells him he's sick of being scorned as a fallen imperial family, and their blood is still royal, even if it's just the name. That's the reason he will become a royal knight and restore his family's honor. Fernand says that his eyes change when he's talking about his dream. He has high ambition and determination, strong enough to achieve his goals. He also has great pride in his lineage, meaning he's not just as naive as he thought. Fernand asks if he has any allergies. They then start having a little side conversation, which is wholesome, but later in the day Fernand says he's got a good idea of what kind of person he is now. He was going to sponsor him after, but it's a good thing that he didn't, as he would have damaged his pride the moment he threw money in his face, since he values honor just like he did in the prophecy. For someone like him, it's better for him to commit to a push and pull technique rather than blatant goodwill. His top priority is to slowly build trust and gain his loyalty, and the time when he will need him will come naturally if he just waits, and when it does, he'll reel him in like a fish, using his money against him, and he'll turn him all over to his side and extract everything he needs. Hyde asks where he's been, and if he also met with the Birchev. Fernand says no, but he's curious as to why he's bringing up the Birchev so suddenly. Hyde reminds him that he summoned Luina Birchev because she was slacking off. Fernand asks if that was the day, and Hyde says that he would have just sent her back if he had known he'd be so late. He ended up telling her that Fernand wouldn't be gone for long, but she left after 3 hours of waiting, and that she's going to think he purposely did this to crush her determination. Fernand says it's fine, as she'll be easier to control if her determination is crushed, and he's put a lot of effort into binding the Birchev, so it needs to work out. He gets a sharp pain in his head and starts holding onto it. Hyde asks if he's okay, and Fernand says he doesn't know what's going on, but his head hurts like crazy. He then spots the prophecy starting to show some of the unreadable parts from before, and he wonders why it's appearing now. It describes a woman who has fluttering brown hair and her eyes reminiscent of aquamarine blue. There were only parts of what described her. Her sword is incomparably noble and beautiful, as if it was alive, and she danced under the moonlight. Ain't ran into her and found himself captivated. Her outstanding talent was enough to rival a royal knight, however, she had malevolence within her. If the shackles binding her were broken, she would be able to spread her wings once more and soar to the potential she had. The shackles binding her, though, is none other than the Pellenberg family, and Ain't needs to free her from them. Fernand says no way, wondering if this is why Ain't hates him in the future, all because of Luina. He says things got a lot more complicated. We see Luina sitting in a chair, annoyed with Fernand. Yesterday, he stood her up deliberately, so why did he call her here again? She's the one drowning in debt, and she wonders if he is just trying to kill her spirit. He sees her from across the room, and says that he can feel how annoyed she is from here. We learn that the Birchev family has traditionally held the title of border counts. Once a strong family guarding the Northern Empire, and one of the 7 prince-electors, but after massive monster waves caused enormous damage, their fortress-like family crumbled, and their glory vanished. The Birchev desperately needed funds to rebuild the family. They even sold their golden patent that grants them the right as prince-electors, but it wasn't enough. At that time, the one who extended a hand to Birchev was the head of the Pellenberg family, Fernand's father. There was no way his father pitied their misfortune. Not a single shred of pity. Rather, it was just an opportunity for him. Since his family's excellence in magic, they were lacking in swordsmanship, but they desired magic swordsmen, and he prevented other nobles from financially supporting Birchev, and eventually forced them to borrow a huge amount from his family. While they escaped annihilation, They were suffering from hell interest fees. If he pushed a bit more, they would have broken under the pressure, and handed over the magic swordsmanship. Of all people, Luina was destined to become the lover of Ain't. Fernand starts thinking about it, saying regardless of the magic swordsmanship, since she is connected to Ain't, the least he can do is make sure she doesn't hate him. He enters the room, saying that she's here early, and he apologizes for yesterday, as he was distracted and forgot about the appointment, and he never did it on purpose. She says enough, and it's always the unfortunate party who bears the unfairness. He says that he didn't really mean it, and she says that if that's what he wants to say, then she understands, but he tells her he really means it. She says that it's enough, asking why he wanted to meet. He says she already knows, and he starts to wonder how to win her favor over. His operation to do that starts with phase 1. He says that starting second year, there's a joint class between the magic and night department, but she instantly refuses. He says that he didn't even finish his sentence, asking how she knew what he would say. She says that she knows he was trying to get her to be his partner, and there's no way she would. Partnering with him is useless, as the department's second rank, she has far better options than someone ranked 10th. Fernand says that if she partners with him for 3 years, he'll waive all of her interest accumulated so far, but on the condition that she accepts him as her sponsor. She asks why, and he says that it's because all joint classes are important. He says they are worth 5 whole credits. She says that's not it. Not only does he want to be her partner, but also her sponsor, and he might not know, but she's on a scholarship at the academy. Fernand says that most of which she sends to her family, so apart from the dorms, everyone knows that she lives poorer than most commoners, and sponsoring her doesn't mean anything else, he just wants to invest because she's talented. She says that nobles don't usually sponsor other nobles. She's also someone who values loyalty, just like Ain't. He says the Birchev's honor may be high, but it can't compare to the former royalty. She wonders if he's insulting her, but he continues explaining unlike Armian, there's a direct entanglement between their two families, so even if she hates it, she'll have to accept his proposal. He tells her this isn't the time to be proud, and he didn't lie when he said she was talented, even if she does bear a grudge against him. It's now time for phase 2. He says he actually saw her sword dance recently, and that her sword is supremely noble and beautiful, and her eyes immediately light up, and he continues saying that it's noble and alive. She definitely wouldn't refuse someone who recognizes her talent. She asks what he means, and he says he couldn't forget the day he first saw her sword dance. Bro starts hitting her with that poem phase a lot of emo kids go through, and she cringes telling him to stop. He says he can't, and she grows nervous, and he says he still hasn't found the perfect word to describe the beauty of her sword dance, and embarrassed, she says that she'll be his partner, telling him to stop. The mission was accomplished. We hear her maid reading how there are 3 years of interest waiver and sponsorship, and it won't be made public. There's also a clause to end the contract after graduation immediately. In exchange, she just has to be Fernand's class partner for 3 years. Luina says the conditions are too good to refuse, and he saw the potential in her sword dance. The maid asks what exactly he saw, and she starts telling her how he said it was noble and beautiful, and also he still hasn't found the perfect word to describe her sword dance's beauty. The maid starts to get absolutely furious, wondering if he's trying to put a move on her, saying at least he has taste, and Luina says it's not like that. The maid says that he's definitely resorting to seduction tactics, and with his good looks and deep intense eyes, he's trying to charm her. She starts absolutely glazing Fernand, and Luina asks if maybe she's the one into him, and she says that she didn't feel seduced, but she was suspicious. Yet 3 years of waived interest will help the family a lot, so she's going to endure it. The maid also reminds her that she's second ranked, and Fernand is 10th. There's then a knock on the door, and the maid runs over to see Hyde, saying that Fernand is asking to see her, and that he'll be waiting at the training grounds, telling her to come as soon as possible. The maid's just pissed, mean mugging him. As Luina looks across the room, the maid says that she'll ask the lady. Luina wonders what he's trying to do with the training yard. She can't figure out what the hell he's up to. As we see him in the training room, drip the hell out, holding a staff, he starts explaining how she's the perennial second ranked. The second-year top student is someone named Alone Donnerts, and that Luina has never beaten him, but she has the talent to become one of the 10 royal knights on the continent. He'll find out soon enough if she's a hidden gem or not. She approaches him, saying that she's not exactly sure what's going on, wondering what he wants. He says that he just doesn't want her to think there's no benefit to partnering with him, and that he's going to show he's not that lacking compared to her. She wonders if he's really trying to just prove it by beating her now, because even if he is ranked 10th, he did qualify for the Labadish Hall. She recognizes that he's skilled, but there's a clear gap between 2nd and 10th place. He says he understands, and they should just start. She grips her blade, saying that if that's what he wants, to go ahead and try. She'll let him take the first move. He says gladly as he begins channeling a spell from his staff. We see the circles appear above her head as rocks begin forming. He continues speaking enchantment table as they start flying towards her. With one swipe, she immediately cuts all of them in half, and heads forward directly towards Fernan. He then begins casting yet another spell. As the debris from the first one is still falling down, she charges forward, slicing them all apart. As she's now almost right in front of him, and she wonders what he is planning, she looks dead ahead at his magic circle, and swings towards it. But in an instant, Fernan is behind her across the arena, and the magic circle is continuing. As he has now shattered the training ground floor, she says that she's actually low-key surprised, since it's made with all kinds of magic that normal spells won't even leave a mark. As she stares at him preparing, she wonders if maybe he was hiding his true power all along. The rocks continue falling as a bright light appears in front of her. She says there's no way. Not only is he multicasting, but he's also chaining high-level magic together. She wonders how much mana he actually has. This is definitely not the skill of a 10th ranker, and she completely underestimated him. At this rate, she's going to lose. Her eyes begin to light up blue, and an aura that matches the color of her eyes begins to emanate, forming a wind barrier around her. This time, Fernan is surprised and smiles. We see the training area begin to get cracks in it, as it starts falling apart. The rocks continue. She tightens the grip on her blade, dashing through them, completely unscathed still. As she is bouncing from rock to rock, heading towards Fernan, he just continues to cast his spell. What a cool panel. The staff then drops to the floor, and she looks pissed. As she stops too shy of his head, he tells her he surrenders. She wonders if he is mocking her. He says he's not, he's simply run out of mana. A mage has no way of beating a knight without mana. She says he doesn't look like he's acting. He's definitely out of mana and can't beat her with his current state. She blocked all of his attacks, so it's her win. She has a really bad feeling about this, because it doesn't feel like one. He tells her he also has something for her. As he reaches into his coat, he pulls it out, saying that this is because she beat him, and he heard that she likes chocolate. He says whiskey chocolate made by his family is really good. And if she doesn't like it, he can get her some different types of chocolate. If any of the other types are also not to her taste, he can get whatever she enjoys. She then stops drooling, saying to wait a minute, asking if he really did a background check on her. He says he wouldn't go to such trouble for one person like her, and that she should wipe her drool away. He merely looked into the personal details of all the students in the top ranks. She's annoyed, saying that's what a background check is, calling him a moron. She sighs, saying that she can't believe he is giving her chocolate for winning a duel, and she's not a child. He says that she doesn't have to take it if she doesn't want to, but she yoinks it out of his hand, saying that she never said she wouldn't. He laughs, saying that they can get along from now on. Then she asks why. He wonders what she's talking about. She says that he possesses an immense amount of mana, enough to unilaterally launch those brutish attacks, and she couldn't even begin to fathom its limits. So why is he merely ranked 10th? He smiles, saying it's obvious. A merchant doesn't step into the spotlight. Later, we see his staff on his desk, and some of the pieces are laying on it. Hyde asks what the hell happened to it, and why he completely shattered the mana storage and mana amplifier. He says that he dueled with Luina, and she was pretty strong. He came in well prepared, and still, everything got destroyed. Not only that, she exhausted all of his mana and still held on. He wonders why he would use such precious items in a duel. Wondering if she's really worth that much, he tells him that it's an investment for the future. Hyde asks what he means, and he says he'll explain later. Hyde wonders if it's still a side effect from the lightning strikes. But in Fernand's head, he's just saying that it was beautiful, and that Ain's judgment was not wrong. Her sword is fast and elegant. At a glance, it even appears noble. He thinks he understands why his father wants their sword art so much. She's also incredibly talented, but he wonders why she has never taken the top spot. He's saying maybe it's because her equipment is ass, and this entire time, he's just been ignoring the hell out of Hyde. Hyde asks what he's going to tell the Duke. Because the Birchev's secret sword art was his father's long-cherished wish. Fernand said that he didn't think much when he went for it, but now that he mentions it, he's a little worried, asking if his father will disown him for this. Hyde says no, he'd probably just kill him to get it over with. Fernand says there's no way he would kill his own son for interrupting his plans. In any case, he decided to send a letter to his father, and he could vividly picture his father's soul escaping his body. He had nothing but anxiety after sending it, and he spent his best to ignore it. After a few days, his father finally replied with the letter. As he's looking at it, he says it's faster than he thought, and Hyde cries, saying it's finally happened. Fernand asks if he happened to give him a separate message, and Hyde cries no. Fernand asks what's wrong, and Hyde says that he feels like today will be his last time serving him. Fernand says surely this won't be a reason for his disownment, and that he's meant to be excommunicated because of ain't, for the crime of joining hands with a demon. This incident isn't particularly related to the demon, so it should be fine. His father says that he's been possessed by a demon. He says that he needs to go see his father immediately, because he doesn't want any chance of him getting tangled up with a demon, like the prophecy says. He can't exactly tell his father that he obtained a book of prophecy either. The head butler says that his father is waiting, but Fernand continues saying that even if he said that he found a book, it doesn't physically exist, and he can't prove it. If he tells the truth, his father will either say that a merchant has lost in foolish delusions, or he'll fly into a rage, saying that he's going to ruin the family. He needs to offer something that can at least offset the loss to his father. His father tells him that he's more composed than he thought, and he was wondering if he had taken some kind of drugs and lost his mind, and if not, then perhaps the demon killed by the first emperor came back to life and possessed his son. And if it's not that either, then he needs to explain why he did it. Fernand says he wanted to make a better investment in Birchev. His father asks what would be better than the sword art, and he says that he can't tell him. His father reminds him this is not a request. Right now, he is trying to ruin their family's fortune, and Fernand tells him he's aware. However, his thoughts have not changed. If he entrusts the Birchev matter to him, he is confident he can bring back a profit far greater than the sword art. His father says he'll ask him again, wondering why he's so damn confident. Fernand, though, adamant, telling him that he can't say. His father says this is absurd, as he never raised him to be reckless, saying surely he knows that this isn't something that can be resolved by throwing a tantrum. Fernand says that he has no choice but to use what was mentioned in the prophecy to strike a deal, and he didn't want to play that card yet, but he has no choice. So he tells him that he's not throwing a tantrum. In exchange for taking full responsibility for the Birchev matter, he will give him information that only he knows. His father asks what it could possibly be, and Fernand says that he has an intelligence group that he runs personally. His father says there's no way it's better than what their family has, wondering what's so great that he's willing to toss Birchev aside for. Fernand says west of the Aruz Mountains, in the territory of Viscount Donnert's, there is an undiscovered magic crystal mine. His father says he hasn't heard of that in the area, asking how he came to find something like that, but an intelligence group that's no better than children playing house. Fernand says that children originally play by digging in the ground, and thanks to that, they sometimes get lucky and find a buried coin. And that place in the Aruz Mountains is enough to cover the losses from Birchev and still have plenty left over. In other words, it is a mountain of money. We learn more about magic stones, and how they are an ore that contains mana, and is considered one of the best. That's why it made money, a lot of money. However, the magic stones deposit in the Aruz Mountains was only mentioned briefly in the prophecy, with no elaboration. He has not seen it for himself, so he has no idea how big it is, but it should buy him some time. He says that the ship operated by the Donnerts sunk due to the typhoon, so their financial situation is not looking good, and they can definitely somehow get their hands on the mine if they use their situation to their advantage. Fernand thinks that it's better to delay revealing the existence of the prophecy as much as possible, if it's going to be discovered. His father says if that is true, then they can make up for the damage he caused, but they need to verify his words first. It'll take time, so he should head back and focus on his studies, and he'll call him back when he gets word. Fernand says okay, and he heads back, hoping that he has extinguished his anger, but it feels like his lifespan is shortened by 10 years. His father calls out to him once more, scaring him, and he turns, wondering what it is and maybe if he messed up. His father says that since he is here, they should have a meal together. Fernand says okay, and as he exits, he tells the butler he's a little disappointed in him, as the black turtle could not uncover what his son has. The butler says he apologizes, and he'll recheck the intelligence unit. His father tells him not to be too harsh, and to take it easy, then asks the butler what he thinks of Fernand. He says for him to try to do business with the Duke, he's become a respectable merchant. But Fernand's father says that he still has doubts about how he found out about the magic stone mine. But they will learn more about Fernand's intelligence squad with time, and maybe they specialize in ores. We learn that they are called the Golden Pillar. Fernand's father continues, saying that he knows very well that ores are a big money maker. That's even the reason Fernand chose to become an earth mage, despite his high affinity with fire. Of course, they'll have to verify this information first. The butler says maybe the young master really does have a bigger network than they thought, and it's possible that he grew the organization beyond expectations. Fernand's father smiles, saying that Kid has always been so interested in ores. He never would have thought he'd do something so extraordinary, and he starts getting excited. He then tells him to find out about Lewina, and how she managed to seduce Fernand. The butler asks if he's trying to say they're in love, and he says there's no reason to invest if there's no profit. And if there is one, he shouldn't hesitate to invest. So if Fernand invested with no apparent reason, that could only mean one single thing, and that his eyes are drawn to something else. And if that's not the love of youth, what else could it be? But he has a feeling that's not all. But he wonders what exactly it could be, and he wonders why a guy who loves money more than his father is choosing this path. It jumps to Lewina eating, and he asks if she is sure that Elia Tortega paired up with Carlos Deneuve. She says yes, as Carlos went to Elia, right after being rejected by herself. Fernand asks if Elia is still fourth, to which Lewina says yes. She was originally fifth, but she improved by leaps and bounds. Fernand just wonders why she would tell him that they were partnering together, because it might create some bad rumors. She says everybody will find out eventually, and that everybody is saying that she only did it because of money. She was, and it was expected, but it's something she needs to deal with. Besides, it's not completely wrong. Fernand says it's true, and he really does love money, and there's nothing that he can't achieve with it. She says that no wonder everybody calls him the money demon, and it's another reason that she hates him. He then tells her to take it, as he slides 2 items forward. One is an elixir, and the other is a voucher. The elixir is made by refining the roots of a mandrake, and the voucher she can take to the weapon shop run by his company, and get high quality equipment. She asks why, since she can't pay him back, and he asks if she forgot they made a contract. She says even if that's the case, giving her equipment made by the Golden Turtle, which is the name of his company I guess, is way too much for her to even consider it as a gift. Fernand freezes up, and she says based on his reaction, he also thinks so, and he shakes, saying no. But of course she's right. But if that's the price of gaining her favor, and preventing a future where he becomes a beggar, it's really cheap. Plus, if she becomes strong enough to help fight the demons, that's even better. She tells him it's too much, and she can't accept it. He says refusing sponsorship is a breach of contract and grounds for termination, and he starts talking about the penalty, and she immediately turns into a demon, saying that she'll accept it. He says they can meet in class, as he has work to do, and he'll go later. But she's still just thinking that it's too expensive even for a sponsorship, and then starts to wonder if there was even a penalty clause in the contract, saying that there definitely wasn't. And wonders why he would just lie and give her such precious items, and if he's really trying to seduce her and steal the magic swordsmanship, like the maid said, that he can try, but there's no way he will succeed. Fernand is looking down from above, saying that Ain't should be attending this lecture, wondering where he is. He then spots him, as this is the first lecture of the first-year night department. Called War and Real-Life Sparring, it's a subject for accurately assessing the level of students through friendly spars. And according to the prophecy, Ain't, who obtained the ego sword of Sir Gardner, began to stand out and become famous. And the story of his growth as a hero who would later save the world begins right here. We hear someone approach Fernand, asking what brings him here, as it sure is a rare occasion to see him. Fernand asked him how he's been, calling him His Majesty. The prince tells him to drop the formalities, and Fernand says that since this is their first time meeting since becoming sophomores, he needs to be polite to him. The prince asks what's going on, and if he should have an eye on any of the new students. Fernand says he always keeps a close eye on those who are in the rankings, wondering what he's doing here, and if he's here to see Ain't. The prince smiles, saying of course, since he is part of the former royal family, it's only natural that they'd be curious why they're suddenly joining the academy when they haven't done it in the past 100 years. We learn that his name is Luger Schwaben, the second prince of the current imperial family of the empire. Schwaben has been on the throne for 3 generations since they were elected an imperial family 100 years ago. They started from the same roots as Armian, but now the former imperial family and the current imperial family have a very strained relationship. Luger values authority very much, and wants Schwaben to continue to inherit the throne. And the existence of Ain't, who holds strong legitimacy, is bound to be a concern. Luger says he's not the only one curious about Ain't, telling him to look over, as we see a man named Varen Kalbunder. Luger says he entered the academy as the second best student this time, and that Varen is trying to seize the opportunity to take the place of the fallen Armian as the elector. That's probably the only reason he's missed. There's no other reason for him to be staring at Ain't all this time. Fernand says this is a pretty big coincidence, wondering if the relationship between Luger and Varen started here. In every heroic epic, there is a villain that the protagonist must overcome in order to grow. As we see Varen standing before Luger, Luger instructs him to beat him and make them all understand that the past is history. Varen says he understands, and that he will defeat and cut off the sprout of Armian. This is the next antagonist. The referee then yells, telling Ain't and someone named Anton to get on stage. Fernand wonders if it's just fate that they're all here to witness the beginning of Ain't's journey, and says this year is interesting, and he wants to check it out, because Ain't should be declared the winner. Because of his display, his name, even among the professors, began to spread very quickly. Fernand wonders if this prophecy will prove that he was right to invest in this. The referee says it's time for them to begin, and Anton starts running directly towards Ain't. For some reason, Ain't's a little caught off guard, but manages to block the attack. Anton immediately follows up with an attack to his throat, but Ain't flips backward through the air, avoiding it. When he lands back, he's panting, and he seems a little gassed out from that brief exchange. Luger says he heard this class randomly assigns sparring partners, and that Ain't sure is unlucky. As Anton placed 10th in the entrance exam, he's a tough opponent for Ain't who placed 38th. But to be pushed back so one-sidedly, he doesn't even honestly know what he expected, since he placed so low, and there's nothing to see, so he's gonna leave. But it doesn't seem like there's nothing to see to him. As Ain't swinging straight down towards Anton's head, we see the attack pass right by his face, but it only cuts through a little bit of his outfit, and Anton looks down at it, surprised. Luger's also surprised, and so is Varen. Fernand says perhaps Ain't was caught off guard by his opponent's aggressive start, and the fact that his confusion is so obvious shows he's inexperienced. But as soon as he responds calmly, the tables turn. Anton's in disbelief that he just almost lost to a guy who's in 38th place. He starts to release his aura, and it erupts in the arena. Some other students say that Ain't is doing better than they thought, but Anton will still win. Luger says that for a 38th ranker to make the 10th ranker use aura, he's at least living up to his family's name. For someone with no talent, he's probably just a little bit better than Anton, but Anton's still in the arena. Fernand wonders what he means by no talent, because that's not a thing that he is lacking. The only thing that is missing from Ain't to make him stand out the most he can is that the environment has never supported him a single time. He and Anton begin trading blows with one another, moving all across the arena. Fernand says that he is special because he is the one chosen by the prophecy. Ain't's eyes start to light up, catching Anton off guard. Fernand continues saying that he's the protagonist of this world for a reason. Everybody watches as he jumps behind Anton and sends his sword flying through the air. Anton falls onto his knees for some perfect back shots. The referee says that Ain't is the winner, and he raises his sword into the air. Everybody starts getting excited. Just as the prophecy said, they're roaring his name. Fernand starts panting like a dog, saying he can hear the money rolling in. He just needs to raise him well and make him his ally. Next, he will try to win over Luina. Back to Fernand's class. The students are wondering why she would pair with him in the first place. Fernand says they're getting too much attention, and she says they'll stop talking eventually. He then asks if she took the elixir, and if she changed her equipment, and if she likes them. She looks over at him. She was excited after changing her equipment to a new sword. She was also excited after she got that Super Saiyan glow up, but she plays it off, saying it wasn't bad. A woman then asks if everybody is here as she walks to the front of the class. We see the referee from Ain't's fight as well. She introduces herself as Professor Rosalia from the Magic Department, and introduces the referee who is Professor Grad from the Night Department. And they will be holding joint classes between the Magic and Night Departments. The lecture is about to begin. This looks like Ader from Tyrant of a Dungeon Defense game. She says they should have all received the maps from the assistants. The first lecture is a practical exercise. There's no better way to confirm that they've learned than through real practice. And from now on, they'll be thrown into a field exercise. The map that Grad gave out has a destination marked on it, and they just need to arrive there within 4 hours. However, they must not be too early or too late. It must be exactly 4 hours from now at 2 p.m. sharp. He asks if there are any questions. And the students ask if this will be reflected in their grades. Grad says that it's the most important thing after the midterms and finals. Another student asks about conflicts between the students. Rosalia says they get bonus points if they capture others, and if there are no questions, they'll proceed immediately. Some other students are tapping their spears on the ground. As a bright light envelops the entire room, she wishes them all luck as they are teleported into a forest. Fernand and Luina are now side by side, and he looks around wondering where he is. She says they need to figure that out now, but first is the map. We see them run into 2 other students immediately, and their names are Jane Hux and Ned Palin. Luina asks what they should do, and Fernand asks if there's really a need to deal with these lower ranked scraps. Is what his usual self would say before walking away, but it's time to follow her decision. She says good, because all she wants is bonus points. She says after they secure them, they can take a look at the map and figure it out. Fernand says it'll be easier to use magic, and she asks if there's a magic that can tell them their location. He says that they can just get to the high ground and look around. She wonders how that's any different from looking at a map, and Ned tells Jane it's time to get the hell out of here. But Luina is already flying straight in, saying that she needs her bonus points and they shouldn't even think about escaping. As she attacks down at the 2 of them, a magic circle appears, blocking her entire attack. Which is probably a good thing. We see this spell starting to disappear, as it was a scroll, and Fernand says that this means there was a defensive spell on the maps the assistants handed out. Luina says if she knew this from the start, she would not have gone easy on them. Fernand says there's no way that was easy, because she left them both crying. We see their card disappearing, and Grad says another team got eliminated, and that they're dropping faster than he thought. Rosalia says moreover, none of the students were eliminated by monsters. It's also interesting that the reason for all the dropouts is conflict among themselves. Grad asks if there's any pair she's keeping an eye on. She said that looking at the grades alone, Ludgern and Alone are both in the same position. But Carlos and Alia are also worth watching. But the one that draws her most attention is the pair of Luina and Fernand. Grad asks if it's because that one is causing a stir amongst the students. Luina is at the disadvantage if they pair up, and he wonders if it's because of money. But Fernand doesn't seem to care that much about his grades. Rosalia says there's probably another reason that they teamed up, and it won't be for his grades. Grad asks what it would be for then, and she says that because Fernand is a student who can read his grades, that he's told me once. Even without having to pair up with Luina. Grad asks what she means by that, and she says that he was always 10th no matter what. It's common to see an outstanding student never miss the top spot, but it's surely a bit more strange to see a student never miss 10th place. Besides, his written exams are nearly perfect, and he always lost points in practical exams. No more, no less, he lost just enough to stay in the dorm. She just assumed that it was because he doesn't want to stand out. Grad asks if this means that he's hiding his skills, and she says yes. Asking if he knows about how the training grounds were smashed recently, and the professors were trying to find out who did it. Turns out that it was Fernan and Luina's doing. Grad's surprised, saying there's no way a student would have the skill to destroy it, and she says that's why she became more curious. He asks if she means about Fernand's real skills, and she says no. But why? He decided to stop hiding them. As we see him standing on a pillar of stone, he starts looking at the map while Luina's killing everybody below. He says that this must be the western mountainous region, and she yells telling him it's finished here, asking if he's ready to go. He says yes, they just need to head northeast, and there are quite a few people on the way too. She says that's great, and he asks if they should find the next pair right away. She says yes, since they need all the bonus points they can. An attack comes in, but Fernand blocks it with his earth magic in an instant. And we hear a man saying they finally meet, as it's none other than Carlos and Alia. Luina's annoyed, wondering where the honor is for a sudden sneak attack. Carlos asks how there's any dishonor in a battle, and if they forgot what the professor said. He says that they're going to have to go back to the school, and there's no way he'd let them go after meeting them as soon as this. Luina wonders why Carlos is so pissed, and Fernand says that he was the one who kept asking her to be a pair, and his pride is probably hurt because he stole her from him. And he says that's childish, holding a grudge over something like that. Carlos is surprised that they're ignoring him, and Luina tells him that she doesn't belong to anybody, so she can't be stolen. They continue ignoring him, and Fernand says that for a guy who's so well built, his actions sure are petty. Carlos gets embarrassed, saying just fight him already, and Fernand says it's going to be an unavoidable clash. Luina though thinks this is better, because they can get more bonus points for catching a high-ranking pair. But since they're high-ranking, Fernand can't just spectate this time. He says he knows, and he'll support her, so she can feel free to go all out. Of course, she doesn't trust him, telling him not to go out of his way, as they haven't even coordinated what moves they could use yet. So she wonders what kind of support he's going to use. He says they are a pair, so fighting separately is meaningless, and he tells her not to worry. As rocks begin to form out around all of them, it begins to form a barrier. It begins to form a dome-like shape around all four of them, and Fernand tells her just to trust in him. It jumps to Rosalia looking surprised, seeing there was a big clash happening over there in the western mountain region. Grad asks if students are already fighting monsters. She says that monsters don't appear in this area, they should take a better look. Grad says that it's two of the pair she just mentioned. She says this is very exciting. Grad agrees. Now they will both be able to see Fernand's true skills. Within the dome Fernand created, we see Luina and Alia running directly towards one another, while Fernand and Carlos do the same. Luina wonders what's going on, as her body feels lighter than usual. She wonders if he really used support magic, asking when he even did this. As we see him multicasting, she can't believe that he's able to do it this efficiently. He winks at her, saying that he sure is awesome, and she cringes, saying what the hell is wrong with this guy. She backpedals Alia's attack and says that she can't afford to be distracted, and she needs to do it quickly. She does a heavy swing, causing the ground beneath them to shatter. Alia does her best to hold it off, and Carlos goes to help her. He shoots out a lightning attack that cuts her off from Alia, but it also begins to run up her sword, completely enveloping her body, making her unable to move. Alia says that she's caught her now, and Luina says this is nothing, as she starts straining, trying to break free. Alia says that she won't give her the chance, as she jumps off the ground, readying her attack. She swings down, and we see her break a rock, and some of it falls onto the floor. Alia's surprised, and even Carlos asks what the hell just happened. As we see Luina teleport right beside Fernand, she also asks what happened, and he says it's magic. His family developed it recently, and it looked useful, so he learned it right away, and it swaps things at the same weight. She asks how he knows her body weight, and he says it was written in the student record. She then picks him up, dodging an attack from Carlos, saying the rock may look heavy, but it's not that heavy, and she will burn the student record herself. He tells her to be gentle and she starts throwing him around, and tells her she needs to move him gently, as he just saved her life. She says she will go take care of Alia, so he needs to focus on blocking Carlos. He says it sure is embarrassing to have to roll on the ground all the time. He then notices a giant magic circle overhead and says he was wondering when Carlos would use this. But it's about time. Carlos' specialty is summoning lightning that pours down like rain. A massive pillar of light created by gathering dozens of lightning strikes at the same time. His multicasting has a destructive power way beyond that of a student, and it's the reason he is the top student of the department. Fernand says he did some research on how to block it, and then he pulls out 2 orbs, saying that he wants to see how effective this really is. He starts to coat them with aura and make them float overhead, as he and Carlos begin to have a magic off. Carlos sends out his attack, which Luina notices, as Fernand starts to get strike down. Luina yells out his name. As the smoke from the attack begins to settle, we see Fernand's silhouette, and he is completely unscathed. Carlos asks how he did this, saying that's impossible. Fernand says it's a storage device that absorbs mana, and he throws him to the ground. He says he modified it a bit, and it was expensive and hard to make, but it seems very effective. If he refines it a bit more and succeeds in mass production, it will be good enough to sell on the market. Carlos tells him that using an artifact is cowardly and cheating. Fernand asks how that's cowardly, since they're in battle, and if he forgot, the professor said this is real practice. Using the same words he said at the start, Carlos gets embarrassed, and then Fernand tells Luina it's her turn. Carlos turns, saying he completely forgot about it, as Fernand tells her to finish the fight. Aura starts to leak from her eyes. She swings upwards, shattering Elia's protective spell. Elsewhere in the field, we see Luger and who I assume is alone. Luger says there's only 2 out of the 4 left, and Alone says this means there's a dropout. The assistants immediately transport the dropouts to the destination. No mage among the students can block Carlos' lightning magic, so it seems that Fernand and Luina were unlucky. Luger says that's where he's wrong. The pair that made it out is Fernand and Luina. Fernand hates standing out, so he's been hiding his true skills, but now that he's paired with her, he won't be able to hide his power, and he'll have no choice but to match the pace of Luina, who's obsessed with her grades, and if he uses his real skills, his rank will definitely rise. His circle is full of people who would jump at the chance to tear him down if his rank drops, so he can't just leave a potential rival be. As we see a whole group of other students behind, unable to go against his word. Luger says as long as they follow him, they will arrive at the destination safely, and they will receive a high rank in this test. However, there is a pair they must eliminate beforehand. It is none other than Fernand and Luina, and they need to capture them. It then jumps to some kind of ogre getting cut through the middle. Luina says that they're getting closer to their destination, and the monsters are showing up in droves. It looks like they'll arrive on time, and they might even finish first at this rate. As Fernand is draining the blood from the monster, she asks if that's really necessary. He says troll blood is one of the key ingredients for making potions. She says she knows that, but compared to his wealth, that's practically pocket change. He says money is still money no matter how small. She says that this is why everybody calls him the money demon. He says that he got to recruit her thanks to that, so it's quite a profitable deal. She says if he's done, then they can keep moving. He asks how many they took down, wondering if it was 7 or 8. She says 8 pairs, so she is expecting a nice bonus. He says that she's completely lost it over scores, to which she shoots back, saying it's better than over money. Besides, she has a very good reason why she has to be the top student. They both sense something, and he says that he sensed a lot of them as well, and there's at least 20 of them, and that's only an estimation, and it feels like they are all targeting them as they leap out from the sky. He and her start fending off their attacks in an instant after they got completely surrounded by the enemies. One of them is charging straight at Luina. We see it's none other than Alone, which catches her off guard. She manages to block his attack, but it was powerful enough to send both of them flying backwards. He manages to regain his footing, and so does she. They charge in once more, and while they are trading blow for blow, we see both of them release their aura, as they are now grinding their swords up against one another. Since they are at a stalemate, Luger takes the chance to float up into the sky, preparing a fire spell, but he notices something else as Fernand is also preparing his own as he dashes straight between the two of them, separating them from Luina. Luger smiles as he looks down at Fernand's face, as Fernand is already countering his spell by drowning him with rocks. Their little confrontation creates a massive explosion, causing the students to have to brace themselves. Luger says he was going to stand back and watch, but then he went and wiped out half the ones following him in a flash. and that they can tone it down a bit. He's really going all out, which is not like him. Fernand says he wanted to try getting first place this time. Luger says that's not going to happen, and they should try settling this peacefully. There's only an hour left before the test ends. If they fight here and now, none of them will make it to the goal, and he and the alone can have second, and it's a win-win for everybody. Fernand thinks about it, but Luina says she'd rather lose in a fight than give up first without trying. Fernand says he can hear her himself, and Luger laughs, saying negotiation failed, and he wants to see what they've got, as he and his boys are ready to fight them. Fernand says that can wait for next time though. Luger wonders what he means, but it's too late as there's a circle beneath where they are standing. The entire area starts to collapse as he's making the ground form into a giant trap to stop them all. As it starts towering over them, Luger looks up as Alone yells, telling everybody to run, and it eats them whole, blocking them all inside. Fernand asks if she's ready to get going, and Luina's just surprised, saying if he had that kind of trick, he should have used it earlier. He says it's exhausting, and it's not going to last long. It jumps to now after the exam, and Grad tells everybody they did great, and he'll announce the test rankings. First is Fernand and Luina, and she looks happy. Second is Luger and Alone, and while as they continue, Fernand says they actually managed to do it. She says they are both good, but they didn't even beat Alone, and she expected them to actually lose. Fernand says first place is first place, it doesn't matter if they beat them or not. She says of course not, this is her first time placing here, so it feels amazing. Grad says with this, the test is now complete, and they'll be heading back to the academy shortly, so stay nearby and don't wander off. She then asks if he knows the new student, Ain't. He says who doesn't, and she says she actually ran into him the other night. He's surprised that she met him, and she says she bumped into him while training, and the situation was enduring. It was kind of similar to the time that he secretly watched her sword dance. Fernand's head starts to hurt, and he squeezes it. She wonders what's going on, but he's now having another prophecy, and another hidden part of the text has now been revealed. As we now get to see bits and pieces, Ain't asked her to be his knight, but she didn't take his hand. And then there was a sky as red as blood, with a thick miasma, and monstrous evil like the end of the world was targeting Ain't. But the back of a knight stood between the two of them. Ain't asks what the hell she's doing, and Luina says he once asked her to be his knight, and she turned him down, but not anymore. Now she knows who he is, and she knows what he's fighting for, and this is her destiny. A knight is both the sword that strikes down their lord's enemies, and the shield that protects them. And she charged directly at the demon, Andromalius, and a brilliant blue aura shone around her. Fernand wonders why it's changing again, and we see her waking up in the hospital bed injured. Ain't said he's so glad she's here, and tells her where she's at. He began crying that she almost sacrificed her life for his. And he starts saying that it's all because of those filthy rich bastards trying to take her family down that they were in such a bad situation. Fernand starts to get hella annoyed that this won't leave him alone, and Luina yells out his name, causing him to snap out of it. She asks if he's okay, as he suddenly collapsed, wondering if he's feeling sick. Turns out he passed out, which even he's confused by, and he tells them that he's fine. Rosalia says that they should maybe go to the infirmary, and Grad suggests he overexerted himself when using his power. Fernand says this must be when Ain't started to see him as an enemy. But he wondered why he suddenly got another prophecy, and that everything was all about Luina, and that if he could be showing him something, that's gonna happen soon. And if that's the case, the guy from the prophecy, Andromalius, one of the 72 demons, is really going to descend into this world. Meaning it'll happen in the near future. A little later, Fernand is approaching the carriage as Hyde tells him good work and that he heard he took first place. Fernand says he used up a ton of energy, and he's hella tired. Hyde says he should get some sleep, and he'll wake him up when they arrive at the dorms. As they start leaving, Fernand thinks about Andromalius, the 72nd of the 72 demon lords. He's in the form of a man with a snake wrapped around his right arm. No matter how many times he searches the book, this is all he can find. He has black hair, and black eyes. But with the war and the demons being over 1,000 years ago, it's only natural there's not much information. In this day and age, the existence of demons is treated as a myth. 1,000 years ago, the demons completely vanished at the hands of the first emperor, and they have never once shown themselves in the world since. But even without information, Ain't will take care of them, so it's not a huge problem. However, the thing is, Luina gets badly injured in the battle with Andromalius, and he wonders if it's right to tell her about this. But even if he does, he doesn't know if she'll believe him. He did try to bring it up briefly before, when she asked if he was okay as they were leaving. He says he told her he's fine, and then asked if she believes in demons. She asks why he's suddenly bringing it up, and he says that he just wants an answer, yes or no. She says of course she believes, as the Empire is a nation built after defeating the demons. He asks what she would think if he said they still existed today. She then starts to look worried, saying maybe he hit his head too hard, and she just treated him like he was crazy. He says that if he could just get his hands on some trace of a demon, he could convince her. He says this is it. Exactly 1 month from today, during a training match in the first-year night class, Ain't defeats Varen, the second top student. After this, no one in the academy can match him. As much as the winner gains, Varen loses even more. His reputation, his honor, and even his strong backing. In the end, he gets possessed by a demon. This is the moment a demon makes its first appearance, albeit indirectly. If he uses that incident well, it'll be much easier to persuade people and get their help. And since there will be clear evidence, he can use it as a foundation to expand his plans. The problem is, he doesn't know when, where, or how he gets possessed by the demon, because he can't read it as it's blurred out. He wonders if it'll become visible when the time comes, or if he has to meet some kind of condition. Then he says this shit is low-key mad annoying. It jumps to Ain't saying as expected of Fernan, and that a Birchev is still a Birchev even if they've lost their military rights. Gardner says that it's thanks to Birchev that Fernan got first place. Ain't says that Gardner seems to like Birchev, but hates the Pellenberg family. He says that they can't even compare the two. The only knight who could stand on the battlefield alongside him and the former emperor was Birchev. Ain't tells him that these days, people value the Pellenbergs more than the Birchev, and times have changed. Gardner says that's why it's the end of days. If it weren't for their war funds during the war 1,000 years ago, he never would have associated with them. And then he says that he needs to ask that kid for some money, because his equipment looks like shit. Ain't asks why so suddenly. Gardner tells him that the kid's unusually kind to him too. Gardner says that it must be because he wants to establish a connection with his family, and the Pellenbergs never state outright what they want. They build trust to lower their guard, then snatch them into their grasp. Ain't asks if he's really trying to say that Fernan approached him with ulterior motives, and his family's already ruined, so there's nothing he could want. Gardner asks why he's so damn self-aware, as his motives don't matter anyways. What matters is, they need to use him. Ain't says that he doesn't think Fernan is being kind because he wants something. When they first met, he gave him a potion when he was hurt by a monster. Bro has a nostalgia filter on this flashback. Ain't says he didn't have calculating eyes, and he was genuinely worried about him. Asking someone like that for money is a dishonorable thing to do, and trust is not something that can be bought with money. Gardner starts to get pissed, saying that this kid is so frustrating. He starts trying to attack him, saying that even the former emperor said having a rich back was reassuring, and wonders if he switched to his side because he bought him one meal. The Pellenbergs are not the type to offer kindness purely, and he should go back and talk to him. He'll probably give him money as if he's been wanting him to ask. But we see Ain't is actually unable to meet him, and Hyde says that Fernan manages the family's guild along with his studies, and he's a very busy person, so it's difficult for him to make time for an appointment. Ain't asks if he could tell him again that it's not a guest, but rather him who has come to see him. Hyde says he did tell him, but he said he was busy, and he needed to return. Ain't asks if that's the case, and he understands. Ain't tells Gardner that he knew he was wrong, and that he just ended up disturbing him when he was busy. And Gardner says that they're strange, because no way a Pellenberg would act like this. Fernan says this is unexpected. He thought the bait wasn't tempting enough, and he can't believe he made contact first. Hyde says as instructed, he sent him back. Fernan tells him he did good, but Hyde wonders why he just sent him back like this. Fernan says it's a bit strange that he came to see him this quickly. And many people seek out the Pellenberg, but their purpose is all the same. It's probably the same for Ain't, but that's what makes it strange. He's not the type to ask others, and he sent him back because he got the feeling he didn't come because he wanted to. It won't be too late to reel him in when he's certain that he trusts him. Hyde asks if it's necessary to go to such lengths for the descendant of a fallen imperial family. Fernand says that his qualities are outstanding, and he has a great talent, so he'll definitely be useful. Hyde says that if he sends him back like this, he might end up losing him. Fernand says of course he'll leave an opening, so he should go to the main family's warehouse and grab all the elixirs. Hyde reminds him that all the elixirs there are extremely expensive, and if they give him them and they have no effect, the loss will be considerable. Fernand says that he'll have to give him something more expensive, as there's nothing that can't be achieved with money, and if he hasn't achieved it yet, it just means that he hasn't spent enough. Back at the lower class dorms some time later, Gardner asks why he met with the butler of the Pellenbergs again. Ain't tells him that he gave him a letter in a box, and Pellenberg says that if it's an apology letter, he sure does have some conscience, and he wonders what he wrote, saying that it must not be something important. Fernand says that it's an elixir, and to please accept it. Gardner is just pissed, asking if he thinks he's above the imperial family for looking down on them. Ain't though is just curious what kind of elixir it'll be, and then is surprised, and Gardner asks if it's that good. He looks over, saying that that's the heart of a saint bird. The saint bird is a sacred bird that wields light. This elixir is perfect for his sword style, which handles the power of light. That kid is really rich through and through, and they didn't get money, but it was still good that he went to go see him. Ain't though is in disbelief, and starts crying, saying that he can't believe he would cherish someone as worthless as him, and he must work even harder to reach his expectations. Gardner tries telling him that that's not the case. It jumps to sometime later, as Fernand is asking what the result is. Hyde tells him that Ain't defeated Varen, and that Varen's swordsmanship was better, but Ain't's aura was overwhelming. Fernand says the prophecy said he would win by a narrow margin, and he must have taken the elixir. Hyde asks if it is due to the elixir that he won, and Fernand hums, saying that it probably had some effect. Hyde says that it sounds like he's saying he would have won even without it. Fernand says that's something no one can know for sure. And just as the prophecy foretold, he won, which means soon Varen will be possessed by a demon, and this is the perfect opportunity to find proof that demons exist. He tells him to keep an eye on him for the time being. Hyde asks if he means Varen, and Fernand says yes, because they have no idea when the demon will attempt to visit him. They need to log all the people he contacts with, and their conversations. Hyde is confused why he means Varen and not Ain't, but Fernand says he needs to know everything he can. He starts getting the daily notes, and time flies by. Fernand just continues living his daily life like usual, attending lectures and so on, we learn. It has been 2 whole weeks since he started watching Varen, but nothing has happened. But this is not right. Something major should be happening soon. And he wonders if Hyde might be slacking off. What if it could be that the part about Varen being possessed by a demon is false? The most important part of the prophecy is about the demon. If that is false, he might have to reconsider the reliability of it all. After his defeat by Ain't, Varen finally met him again during the midterm exam and lunged directly at him. However, the winner of this fight was already decided. He was not going to lose to the same opponent twice, but Ain't was not careless. With Gardner as his teacher, it was even more of a one-sided defeat than it was previously. He left him behind in the end, but he did not know that the demonic energy that had begun to creep out of his body and mind had begun to consume him. Fernand's head starts hurting as he jolts up in bed, saying that he can't believe he fell asleep, and it's already morning. He's seeing the prophecies in his sleep now. But still, he found out the exact moment he gets possessed. If it was later, it was after he lost in the midterms. And the day for those midterms is actually none other than today. As the prophecy starts spamming in front of him, Hyde enters, saying he's up early and that he should eat breakfast. But instead, he's curious as to what the hell he's doing. He even has Mjolnir and Link's shield on the table. Fernand says the timing was perfect. He's going to observe the first-year night department's midterm exam, and he needs an escort to come with him. Hyde says he's been summoned by the Duke, so he has to go later. Fernand says he sees, and he'll take someone else. Hyde asks who else he could take, since he doesn't have any friends at the academy. Fernand, annoyed, says that he does. He has one he bought with money. We see Luina confused on why he needs an escort to gather elixirs, specifically during the exam period, wondering why she has to go. He says the effect will fade if he delays it, and that's why he has to go now. She tells him that she's busy studying. He says if she comes with, he'll waive the interest of the debt for a few months, even after graduation. She immediately passes by, saying that she'll do it. She asks where they're going, and he says the northern mountain region. She says that is being used as the midterm exam site for the first years right now, and if students from the other years enter, they could be disciplined for violating school rules. He says there's nothing in this world money can't buy. She asks if that means he bribed someone, and the one who took the bribe was definitely Grad, and then he sure is shameless. Fernand says he likes Grad, since he is so flexible. She says she's gonna go back to the dorms, and he asks why, saying that it'll be over soon, and he told her they won't get caught for breaking the rules, asking if she's a knight that goes back on her word. She says that it's not that. She just forgot to bring her sword. Realizing he overreacted, he says he sees, and to go get it quickly. As they are now watching the duels, he says they need to hide their presence so the professors and teaching assistants don't discover them. He may have bribed Professor Grad, but wandering around openly would be a problem. She says that means he's aware this is not right, and doing it knowingly is even worse. He says that she's such a good kid, she should keep living like that, and that he needs to check where they should go. He says that Ain't is in the second department, and he finds it on the map, saying that he's really close to Varen who's ranked third, and this means they might have already fought, and they should hurry up. She says that was the professor's map, and it's against school rules for a student to have one. Wondering how much he bribed him, Fernand says to just follow him quietly, and then he hears one hell of a scream. She says that might be a monster, and Fernand realizes this is bad. He then hears groaning, and she says that's where the first years are, so she needs to go check. He tells her to wait, as it's dangerous to go alone. She runs off, and he chases her, calling out her name, and she says that it looked like he was attacked by a monster. But, thanks to the defensive magic on the map, he doesn't have any injuries, but something strange. The monsters in this area aren't usually this ferocious. Fernand says it started sooner than he thought, and he has not been able to check on Varen's condition yet. The screams continue, and Luina looks up, worried, wondering what the hell that is, as there are attacks all over the forest in front of them, destroying everything. Luina then notices something. As she hears heavy footsteps, she looks to her left, seeing a troll running straight at her. She dashes forward without missing a beat, cutting off its arm. As its arm falls to the floor, it turns back towards her, charging. She wonders why it's not stopping even though its arm got cut off, but Fernand steps in by sending rocks straight through its chest. As he pulls from the ground beside him, he creates rock lances, throwing them directly at the troll once more. He starts pelting it in the back, but the troll doesn't stop. Luina reacts by jumping backwards onto a tree, and using it to propel herself away from the troll. She now lands behind Fernand and asks what the hell is going on. He says that it's gone berserk, and it can't feel pain right now. Berserk monsters are on a completely different level from normal ones. They are only obsessed with killing the living beings they see. The only way to kill them is to chop off their heads. She wonders why it suddenly went berserk. The prophecy mentioned it all happening because of a demon. While the professors and instructors were busy dealing with the anomaly, Varen attacked Ain't with the demonic power he received. Ain't, who was struggling against an overwhelming foe, finally awakens. In dramas, when the main character faces a crisis, problems always arise simultaneously all around them. This is just like that. Fernand starts laughing, and Luina asks why he is laughing in this situation. As this is not funny. He starts to prepare a spell, saying that for now they need to focus on dealing with the troll, but it jumps to Varen saying that he can't believe he lost again. Ain't starts leaving, and Varen yells, asking where he is going, as it's not over. But Ain't says that he is wrong. The match is decided, and it's his loss once more. These words start resounding through his head, and he says that he needs to win. And then he has already failed the prince's expectations, and he has failed his family's expectations too. If this goes wrong, he might lose his position as the family heir because of this. With so much guilt and expectations weighing on his shoulders, he says this time he must defeat him. He immediately dashes off the ground, heading straight towards Ain't, telling him to stop as a red aura begins to get released. Ain't smiles, while Varen looks pissed. Ain't meets his attack with a barrage of slices, beating him with a single move. Gardner asks why this guy keeps coming at him when he sees him. He is so weak, he can't accept his defeat with grace. In that sense, he has no chivalry. So Ain't should just kill him. But Ain't says he can't do that. Gardner says that he is a vermin who will tarnish the honor of knights if he lives, but Ain't says this is not a real battle, as it's an exam. So he'll leave him since the instructors will come and take him soon. Back to Fernand's side, they finish killing their troll. He says it wasn't as big a deal as he thought. Luina says they need to forget about the elixir, and leave this place to the professors and instructors, and get out of here. He says he can't give up on it. So they are going to cut through that horde of monsters and head west. She asks if he has lost his mind. He says that she took down a berserk monster now, so she should know they may be persistent, but they are not impossible to kill. She asks if maybe he anticipated this would happen, and this is the reason he needed an escort. He asks how he could possibly do that. She says that it doesn't matter. She just doesn't think this is right, wondering if the elixir is more important than his life. He says of course it is. Money is the most important thing. He starts running off, and she says she can't believe he is so crazy. They finally arrive, and she asks if this is where the elixir is. He says it is. Fernand sees Varen on the ground, saying that since the fight with Ain't is already over, it means he came too late. Luina sees him on the floor too, saying that they need to go over, but Fernand tells her not to get close. She asks why. Then she realizes who it is. She says that she thought he was pretty skilled, wondering who did this to him. She says it looks like he passed out while fighting, and she needs to help him up, so Fernand needs to come over. He says no, and that she needs to get away from him right now. She says she can't leave a collapsed person here, because if a berserk monster shows up while he's just laying here, there's no telling what will happen, and they should hide him somewhere safe. Varen starts to rise up, and she turns, seeing his shadow, before instantly distancing herself. Because he's releasing one hell of a weird aura. She said she's never felt this before. She calls out to Varen, and then says that she doesn't even know if that's who it truly is anymore. Fernand tells her it's demonic energy. She asks if he's talking about the stuff that demons emit. He says yes. Varen has now been possessed by a demon. His eyes are full of pure rage. Fernand says that he thinks something is wrong. According to the prophecy, the demonized Varen is supposed to go after Ain't as soon as he awakens, but it seems like that's not the case now, and the target has changed. Luina asks if Fernand is telling her that a demon has borrowed his body and reappeared in his world, wondering how he knows this, but he can't hear her. All he can do is stare at Varen, saying that he's definitely lost his mind. She says they have to subdue him, and he puts his hand on her shoulder, saying that she needs to hold out for 10 whole minutes. She turns, asking what he's saying, but he's nowhere to be seen, and Varen is leaping overhead for an attack. She starts calling out to him, trying to make him come back to his senses, but he screams rage and swings, knocking her sword back into the air, but she manages to regain her footing and starts pushing back, but she can tell that she's losing since he's strong, and that she'll definitely be overwhelmed at this rate. She starts to release her aura, causing him to go flying backwards until he lands on the floor. She immediately follows up with a punch to his chest, as well as shattering the ground beneath him. She tells him to get a hold of himself, but his eyes are still completely gone. He tightens the grip on his sword and swings towards her, but she leaps up to avoid the attack. He then starts to emit even more demonic aura, but she releases hers to match, and it definitely is very elegant. Varen screams while charging at her, and she charges forward as well, meeting him dead in the middle. As they both swing towards one another, we see a giant clash of their aura, but it low-key looks like Varen is completely overwhelming her. We see her take a step back, and she says that her aura is depleting faster because of his demonic energy. She has no idea what to do, and that at this rate, her aura will run out, but it's not like there's no other way. She then notices something, asking Fernand what took him so long. He waves, telling her to come over here, and Varen screams at him. While he's distracted, she takes the chance to bounce off of his head, and they start running away. She asks why he ran in the first place, and he says that it's because he's a demon. She asks why he ran away, leaving her to fight by herself, and he says that he didn't. He set up a trap to subdue Varen, because he's not someone who can be easily beaten, and it should be about time that he steps in it. As we see his foot stepping on the ground, it cracks underneath him, and the entire ground starts to float up, because the magic circle above starts pulling it all up. And while it does that, it simultaneously starts shooting out fire magic, sending him straight back down into the ground. She says there's no need to go this far, wondering what he'll do if he dies from that combo. He tells her that's not the case. If anything, it's only going to make him even angrier, as he starts releasing an even darker aura than he did previously. She says that she realized this after fighting him, but Fernand interrupts her, saying that he really didn't want to have to use this, as he pulls out his wand and a magic gem in his hand. He starts speaking enchantment table, and fire begins to envelop all around Varen. Fernand continues pouring out everything he has into this magic circle, as it starts to summon a giant pillar of flame directly over Varen, scorching him. He faints, falling face first into the ground. Fernand says that it worked, and the operation is a success, and that sure was a tense moment. She asks what he means by a success, as the items he used are really expensive, so surely he feels like it's a waste. He says they are, but the situation couldn't help it. She tells him that if they worked together, they could have taken him down with all of that. He asks what she's yapping about. He's clearly possessed by a demon, and was releasing crazy amounts of energy. She says that he certainly has the visuals to destroy the world, but his foundation is still Varen. Fernand recalls that Ain't was meant to struggle before awakening, and has a bad realization, and realizes where he made the mistake. He says it's true that Ain't is going to become the hero who saves the world, but he's still a first year who has not awakened his abilities. Her power is stronger than him at the moment, so while he is barely stronger than Varen, she was much stronger than him. Based on the current point in time, he can't believe that he made such a grave mistake. He was so fixated on the word demon that he forgot what was truly important, and he lost both a super expensive scroll and an artifact. She slaps him, telling him to snap out of it, and that he's lost focus in his eyes, asking if he's okay. Varen stands back up, and Fernand just wonders how much all of that cost, and Varen glares over at them and leaps with a scream towards Luina. Fernand hits him with a punch straight to the face, asking him to think about how much he just wasted on his ass, and he falls unconscious. Luina asks why he didn't just do that from the start if he had the ability, but he's just pissed because of how much money he spent. It jumps to later. Varen is asking if that's really him, saying that this can't be right. Fernand says the recording sphere records the scene exactly as it was, and there's no way to fabricate it. He says he doesn't remember anything after feigning from his fight. Fernand says that's exactly why he's kindly explaining it to him now. After he lost his fight with Ain't, he was possessed by a demon and attacked them. He says he's never even met one, so why are they so sure he got possessed by one? Fernand says that he's seen the recording sphere, so he should know that he was hit head-on by a bomb that he triggered, and then dozens of magic arrows pierced his body, and a pillar of fire made from hellfire burned him whole. The fact that he's still alive after all of that is because demonic energy protected his body. Varen says that he's right, and it's a miracle he's not dead. Fernand says besides, he used a lot of things trying to stop his demonized self. Varen says that if he's talking about the artifacts used to stop him, then he'll pay for them. Fernand says it's not just that, but his mental trauma is also intense, and he starts putting on a whole spiel. Varen says that he gets it, asking what he could do for him. Fernand says it's very simple what he has to do, when he holds up a slave contract, saying that he just has to sign this and this will all be forgotten. Varen says it's literally a slave contract, and these terms are a bit much. Fernand says that he's not appreciating his kindness to try to resolve this quietly for his sake, and in that case, he has no choice but to handle this matter by the book and have to take the recording sphere to the Inquisitors. Varen looks surprised, and we learn that the Inquisitors are an organization directly under the Emperor, whose primary goal is to find and annihilate demons under the great cause of demon annihilation. They once wielded absolute power, but now that 1,000 years have passed and the existence of demons is all but forgotten, they are merely a figurehead organization. Fernand tells him that the Inquisitors are looking for a chance to bring themselves back to the spotlight, and they'll be delighted to see this recording. Varen says that he's telling him he has nothing to do with demons. Fernand says that since he has consorted with a demon, he'll naturally be expelled from the academy, wondering what he thinks his father will do about his son who sold his soul to a demon, and that he might be disowned. Bro folds instantly, putting his signature down, saying that he'll be in his care, calling him master. Luina just wonders if it's really okay to wrap this up among themselves, that since it would be better to inform the professors. Fernand tells her now is not the time, whether he became a demon willingly or was manipulated, or even the reason as to why, they haven't figured it out. And if he was being controlled by someone, it means there's someone inside the academy colluding with demons. If this incident becomes public, they might lay low, and that would make it harder for them to find. She says that that means he's planning to investigate this further, but wondering why they would target academy students. Fernand says it's just a guess, but the academies were where the Empire's most promising talents gather. She gets angry, saying that's the same as trying to destroy the Empire's future. She won't stand by, and he can call her anytime he needs help exterminating demons. Fernand says this is great. From now on, he won't have to offer her interest-free deals, and that she would only probably realize it later just how dumb of a promise that was. After the exam, we see the students looking at a board, talking about how all professors and assistants were all mobilized to calm the monster rampage incident down, and that the exam was cancelled halfway through for the night department. But there is no way to cancel the midterm exam itself, and that all practical exams were replaced with written ones. The students say hell no, this is awful, and since the academy's grades originally weighed practical skills more than written ones, for the students who have been focusing on practical studies, written exams for all subjects were bound to be a considerable burden. And ain't was no exception. Gardner says it's strange no matter how much he thinks about it. He asks what he means. Then Gardner says the monster rampage from before was definitely the work of a demon, as he could feel the demonic energy, but the demon itself never appeared. Ain't says that means it must not have been the work of a demon then. But Gardner says it's impossible, and he's told him time and time again that the demons are going to reappear. This is why the first emperor placed him here, and the demons will always be targeting Ain't. Ain't asks why and looks surprised. Gardner asks if he really doesn't know. It's because to the demons, the name Armian has an enemy etched deep into their bones. If it weren't for the Armians, they would have had this world in the palm of their hands. So this time, they will surely try to wipe out the Armian bloodline first, so he should never let his guard down and keep following his guidance. Ain't's a little scared that he's what the demons are after. At the same time, in Fernand's dorm, we hear him screaming, and he says his head feels like it's going to split. Hyde asks him what's wrong. As he's face first on his desk, we see a new prophecy. The first-year common required subject, field survival skills, happens right after the midterms. Thinking that there would be a spiritual herb given by the former emperor, Ain't took the bait. As he entered a cave by himself, he finally found it, but there was a spiritual beast guarding it, and Gardner told him that it was too much and to run. They ended up defeating it though, and when the spirit beast died, the area behind it collapsed, and through the gap, Mithril or revealed itself. Ain't and Gardner got really excited, and we learn that Mithril is called the metal blessed by mana, but it's not just that. It's also the same thing that Gardner's blade is made out of, and thanks to that, his soul is able to inhabit it. Fernand looks surprised as he's reading the prophecy, saying that if it's a metal that can house a soul, he will absolutely make it as no matter what. It jumps to Luina eating a piece of chocolate, saying last time it was a spiritual potion, and now it's a spiritual herb. Fernand tells her he lied to her last time, but this one is real. She can't believe he admitted to lying so easily. If they go to the survival training, they have to skip class for a week. He says he prepared a way to make up for the missed classes, and if she does it, he'll take care of everything. She says she won't do it, and he says he'll waive their interest, but she's firm, saying she won't do it. She doesn't know about other things, but she can't miss class. And she can't believe he would skip a whole week just for a spiritual herb, and he sure is something else. He tells her that she doesn't have to do it, and he'll go ask someone else. Someone enters the room, saying it's been a while, as he calls out to Fernand. He says may the blessing of Mana be with him today as well, and puts his hands together. Luina recognizes him, and we learn that his name is Jace Vines. Jace laughs, saying that he didn't expect Fernand to not be alone, and he greets her, saying the same thing he said to Fernand about the mana. He then asks if he's okay calling him brother. Fernand says that he's been alright, asking how the life is at the academy. Jace says that he's still a first year, and there's a lot to learn. Luina is just confused, asking if the two of them are close. Fernand says that she looks genuinely surprised, and Jace says that it's understandable, and it's only natural. She says it's not natural at all, and says that she understands what Jace's position is at the church, and he is the saint of the Dragon God Church, and people bow to him, and so there's no reason for a saint that everyone praises to be associated with a money-hungry demon. Jace laughs, saying that she must not know since she's not a mage. The Dragon God Church once worshipped the ancient dragon who gifted magic to mankind, but over time they came to worship mana and magic itself, and most of their followers are mages because of that, and they've become a very powerful mage organization. To become an archmage, one must be acknowledged by the Pope of their church, and that's how much authority they have. She shoos away all the world building, saying that she knows all of that, but what does it have to do with Fernand? He says that he needs to finish first, and since the church is made up of mages, running it takes an enormous amount of funding, and that Fernand's family is the church's biggest supporter. Countless magical items created by the church are funneled into their merchant guild. The Dragon God Church and the Pellenberg family are completely intertwined. Jace says, as the old saying goes, a rich person is your elder. Fernand says he is technically older than him, and Jace says of course. She says that she refuses to believe he's the saint, and he's more like a spoiled rich brat. Jace starts crying, saying that actually kind of stings, and she says that was just a slip-up. He instantly 180s, laughing, saying he's just kidding. She says that she understands their relationship now, and she'll be on her way. Jace asks why she's leaving when they just met. She says that she does not plan to get involved in this. He tells her that if she changes her mind, to come back anytime, and tells her goodbye. She's definitely upset. After she leaves, Jace then asks Fernand why he called him here. Fernand says they're gonna be gathering spirit herbs during the first year's field survival training and needs assistance. Jace says that sure does sound tempting, and Fernand laughs, asking if he's trying to take it for himself. Jace says of course not. He would not risk their relationship over a single herb, but asks if they really need to gather it during the training. With his skills, he could sneak in beforehand and do it. Fernand says he would have done it if he could, but unfortunately, he has not pinpointed its exact location. Technically, the information from the prophecy should be enough to locate it. There are 7 lakes in the southern forest where the first-year field training will take place, and he's been channeling mana into the bottom of all 7 lakes these past few days to find a mana vein, but he has yet to find any mithril. It's clear the cave has been magically hidden, and no ordinary magic will find it. While it's annoying as hell, he has to follow Ain't till he guides them there. Jace says that students not involved in the training area aren't allowed to be there. There'll be a lot of people, so it'll be hard to sneak around unnoticed. Fernand says that's why he signed up to be a teaching assistant for the first year's training. Jace says that he didn't think he'd be able to, as he heard the requirements were strict. Fernand says it is pretty unusual for a second year to assist, but he talked to Rosalia about it, and it wasn't against the rules, so he got permission in the end. Jace says that he really is a merchant through and through. Fernand asks if he's in. Jace says that only if he promises to give him plenty of money, then he'll be there. We see him holding a contract. It is now time for their survival training, as we see all the students prepared. Gardner tells Ain't that he wants to go over the plan one more time. The spirit herb is in Lake Farden to the west, and they'll need to make it look like a coincidence so they don't raise suspicion, so at first, they'll just wander around. He then notices something. Gardner asks if he's even listening. He tells him to look, as Fernand's over there, and that he's going to be assisting. Gardner says that there's no way he'd be doing that, since there's no money in this. Ain't then starts waving, saying that he's probably trying to get bonus points for assisting, and when he yells out to him, Grad immediately yells over him, saying that the training will begin in 30 minutes, and everybody needs to go to their positions. As Fernand is going to his, Ain't says that he really wanted to say hi to him. Gardner asks what he even likes about that spoiled rich guy. Sometime later, we see a doll dressed up as Fernand, and Jace tells him to give him some of his blood and mana. As he does so, it immediately turns into a clone of him, and Jace says that it sure does look convincing. Fernand says he thinks it'll pass too, and Jace reminds him he's the top of his class, and he used this spell all the time to sneak out past His Holiness and the Pope. Fernand's surprised he tricked the Pope with his spell. Jace says of course not, and there's no way he could fool a legendary mage, but it'd take him a few hours to realize, and until then, Even he wasn't sure. Fernand says that's good enough to confuse the world's greatest mage. No wonder everybody calls him a genius, and it'll probably be a big help to Ain't in the future. But strangely, there's no mention of Jace in the prophecy at all, and he wonders why that is, since he's talented and a member of the Dragon God Church. And it's only natural for humans to hate demons, and the Dragon God Church especially despise them, because apparently, some demon told the church that magic doesn't come from dragons but from demons. And this pissed them off to the point that it became blasphemy, and they went insane, and turned into a raving demon-fighting cult. But he still doesn't know why he's not Aint's ally in the future, and wonders if he should invest in it to happen. As he leaves, he tells Jace he's gonna count on him, and Jace waves him bye. Fernand heads into the forest following Ain't. He says that since he's heading west, the only lake there is Farden. He taps his ear, telling somebody it's their turn now, and we see none other than Varen using magic, who has the magic device on his ear as well. Ain't sees him, wondering what he's doing here, and Varen low-key looks anxious. Ain't asks what he's doing here again, saying that he knows he can't win. Varen knows that he can't, but he doesn't want to keep looking pathetic. We get a flashback to Fernand telling him he has to stay close to him, and Varen asks why. Fernand tells him that he doesn't seem to understand the situation, and that he could put his life on hard mode if he wanted to. Varen says he doesn't want that, and he tells him that he cannot accept defeat. Ain't asks if twice wasn't enough, and Varen tells him that it doesn't matter if it's twice or 100 times, losing to him has ruined his reputation, and he will fight him again to reclaim his honor. As he starts releasing his aura, Gardner says that he's glad he has the spirit to keep challenging despite defeat. Ain't wonders why Gardner switched up like this, and Gardner says that he didn't seem much at first, but he now sees that he's a magnificent knight, and to accept his challenge. Ain't sighs, saying that's good and all, but this practical training prohibits clashes between participants. Embarrassed, Varen tells him that it doesn't matter, he only fights for honors. Gardner says that rules like that mean nothing, because all a knight seeks is honor, and both he and Varen keep trying to egg him on to duel him. And it's making him confused about what to do. Fernand watches all this, saying that this is good and he should keep stalling, and that he's going to take care of his business as he heads over to the Lake Farden. We see him standing above it, and he says no one's around it, and a barrier is up. Even if he digs up the ground to find the mithril, there's no risk of noise leaking out. He says that he should give it a try, and he finally gets to use this magic, and he really wanted to try it out. He needs to find the mithril before Ain't, so he doesn't have much time. So he prepared something quite special. As a ginormous magic circle appears on the ground, it's a summoning spell, and he tells his servant to rise. Fernand says the principle of magic tech brings together all magical techniques. A merchant's essence infused with enormous amounts of money gave rise to this big old boy. As it looks up, Fernand says that he's always wanted to have a golem, and this sure is cool. From now on, the golem is James, and he says that James needs to go find the mithril. And Fernand's having a blast. Back to Ain't. Varen was telling him that he cannot pass until he defeats him. He starts clinging to his foot, asking if he's really just going to stand there and watch when he goes this far. Aint's annoyed, wondering how long it's been. And Gardner asks why he can be so narrow-minded as a descendant of the Armian. Ain't tells him that's enough, and to quit acting like a child. Varen says he's not doing this because he wants to, and recalls how Fernand told him to last an hour. And if he can't endure it, life will be tough. Ain't asks what he means. Realizing he can't snitch, Varen says he loves doing this, and he absolutely loves people who trample on him and ruin his life. Aint's low-key getting freaked out, and he continues saying that he's so crazy about it, so he should hurry up and attack already. Ain't kicks him in the face, asking what kind of freak he is, sending him flying backwards. Varen, crying, says that he is indeed a freak, and that he needs to come at him. But Ain't runs away, and he wonders if he lasted long enough. He looks down at his stopwatch, saying that he only needed to last an hour, and it was an hour and 10 minutes, which means that he did his side of the job. Back to Ain't. Gardner asks why he's ignoring a knight's plea like that, and that's not what he taught him. Ain't says the rules say there's no fighting due to training, and this cave is something that if you're not actively looking for it, you'll never find. Gardner says that's obvious, because if it were easy to find, everything would have been stolen. Fernand says that he senses something else here, other than the spirit herbs. Gardener tells him to look down, as we see the spirit herbs below. Ain't says they hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, deep inside the cave, Fernand is going crazy, as he and James are digging their way through, all the way to the mithril, and they finally found it all. Ain't says this is troublesome, and they found the spirit herb, but they don't know how to get it out with that monster guarding it. Gardener says he did not expect a sea dragon to be the one here. And it's not a good time, and they can come back later when they have another chance. Ain't says he's been in good form, and that he could fight the sea dragon. Gardener tells him that sea dragon will taste human flesh today, and that he's way out of his league right now. The ground begins shaking from all the mining, and some of the rubble from the top of the cave breaks, landing all over the sea dragon, causing it to wake up. It lets out one hell of a roar, and starts rising up. Gardener says this is bad since it's woken up, and Ain't looks up at it, saying that now running away is not an option, asking what they can do about this. If you've watched till the end, comment, Architects, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.